I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember bacon makes everything better.
Our next guest has authored one of the best college basketball stories in the entire country so far this season. Fifth-year Appalachian State coach Dustin Kerns is originally from Kingsport, Tennessee, which is only about 80 miles or so from Boone, North Carolina, where, of course, he lives now with his wife Brittany, daughter Emery, and son Riggs. 3 years ago, Coach Kerns led the Mountaineers to just their third NCAA tournament trip in their 50-plus years as a Division I program. This year, he has them on top of the Sun Belt Conference standings and in position for what would be their very first-place regular season finish as a member of that league. Earlier this season, folks, sorry if you missed it, App State hosted a Power 5 opponent for the first time in 23 years, and in absolutely thrilling fashion, the Mountaineers beat Coach Bruce Pearl and the SEC's Auburn Tigers, who, by the way, right now are 16-2 and among the top 10 or so teams in the entire country. App State is now 15-4, 6-1 in Sun Belt play, and 8-0 at home this season. They sold out the Holmes Convocation Center for that Auburn game. They have 7 more home games this season, including this coming Saturday, a much-anticipated rematch with James Madison, another of the best teams in the Sun Belt Basketball Conference this year. Dustin Kerns, welcome back to the David Glenn Show, and welcome to the new North Carolina Sports Network. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be on the David Glenn Show. I tell you what, it's very humbling. Your line of guests is more than impressive, and so I'm kind of wondering what I'm doing on here. You have a star line cast weekly, and so you do a great job. It's great to be on here.
I appreciate you saying that, Coach. But I'll tell you, man, there's no asterisk required with this Dustin Kerns trip. We know some of your basketball story, and we want to get to know you a little bit better. I have read that one of your grandfathers was a coal miner. Your dad was drafted into the U.S. Armed Services and served in Vietnam. And your mom has been described as basically a lifelong blue-collar worker during her working days. What else can you tell us about those people and your upbringing in Tennessee and how they've impacted the person you've become and maybe even this great coach you've become?
Well, I just think that, I'm very proud of my family and kind of the blue-collar approach, the old-fashioned way of work. My grandmother was a sharecropper as well. And so, I think that, my grandfather was a coal miner. And like I said, my dad was drafted in Vietnam, spent 13 months over there. My mom did not go to college. My dad graduated college. I was at his college graduation. He went to night school for 14 years once he got back from the Army. So just a blue-collar approach, roll your sleeves up, work the old-fashioned way, and certainly have tried to do that in the coaching world as well.
One of those coaching mottos I've seen follow you around is take the stairs. All of us have heard that phrase. How do you put into words what it means to you and your Mountaineers?
Yeah, I just want our guys to realize that, and it's really a mindset that we don't want it easy. And when you take the stairs, 95% of the people in the world are going to choose an escalator or an elevator over a stairwell. And it's just, like I said, it's just a mentality. It's a mindset. It's a daily approach to take the hard way. Don't take the easy route, whether it's academically, whether it's basketball-wise, whatever it may be. Let's roll our sleeves up and work the old-fashioned way and quote, take the stairs.
I teach now at the college level a little bit, Coach, so I've occasionally had to explain the difference between figuratively and literally. So when I hear take the stairs, I wonder if I were a Coach Kerns player and maybe we're checking into a hotel and my room's on the 8th floor. Do I literally take the stairs just in case Coach Kerns is watching? Because I imagine there's just dozens of examples every day where you could sort of figuratively or literally take the stairs or not.
Well, that's a great question. The hotels are the one thing that we talk to our guys about, is because it's tricky in hotels. Like, I've taken the stairs before, and I've ended up in the kitchen. I've ended up out in an alleyway. So if we're at a hotel that's got, really our kind of standard is, fourth, fifth floor that we can feel like we can get to. But if it's on the 28th floor, not only it's just, we don't know. Some of these, the fire alarm's going to go off. Like, some of them are just not feasible, right? So once again, it's try to, do it in our daily lives with just with our approach of, taking the hard route.
One interesting part of your story, among many, is that a majority of major college head basketball coaches did play the game in college. Not everybody, of course, but a majority. I know you played for a very prominent high school program in Tennessee, Dobbins Bennett, I believe is the pronunciation. But when you went to Clemson as an undergrad, you became a student assistant under then Tigers head coach Larry Chiat. What was that experience like during your time with the Tigers? And did you already know that there was a potential coaching career on your mind someday?
Yeah, I think that, so played basketball to, actually Dobbins Bennett leads the country in all-time wins. So it's the winningest high school program in the country.
Wow.
So my senior year, we went to team camp at Clemson. They were recruiting one of my teammates, and just kind of, fell in love with it. I did want to get into coaching. At that point, I thought about probably high school coaching. But when you get into college, you kind of get fall in love with the college game. It's Mark Few, Gonzaga, didn't play college basketball. Bruce Pearl, Scott Drew at Baylor, Dusty May at Florida Atlantic. Like, I could keep going. There's a lot of Roy Williams didn't play college basketball. I could keep going. Those are just some guys that just jump out on the top of the head. But I think that everybody's got a different path. I think in coaching, 2 + 2 does not equal 4. And I think that there's just so many different routes to go. At the end of the day, it's a studied game. It's a passion. And so there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But certainly had to take the stairs in coaching.
App State head coach Dustin Kerns is joining us on the David Glenn Show. It was 20 or so years ago. I've read that you were able to coach at the Michael Jordan Flight School. Now, you're still a young guy at this point. I assume you were coaching at the youth basketball camp, because I know Michael at some point had that Michael Jordan flight camp for 30-year-olds and stuff like that. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, it was awesome. And so walked in the Clemson office one day. One of the assistant coaches said, "Hey, I just got off the phone with George Raveling. You're going to go work the Michael Jordan Flight School in Santa Barbara, California." I said, "Well, I've never been west of Nashville. What are you talking about?" Like, and just fortunate, once again, just relationships built there. Assistant at Clemson at the time really thought highly of me to recommend me for that. And so at the time, it's in August, which there are high school kids there. And so from a NCAA recruiting, that's kind of typically a dead period. And so as a support staff member, so my last year at Clemson, and then I went on to Tennessee Tech, and then went on to be a GA at Tennessee. Being a support staff member, I was allowed to work that since there were, quote, recruitable kids in the camp. However, when I got my first assistant job at Wofford, being an assistant coach, then I was not allowed to work anymore. But I went out there 3 times. It's just, kind of surreal sometimes to think about. LeBron James was in high school, so Nike would fly out guys like him and work them out. They were part of the camp as well. But my last year there, They have college teams, they have NBA teams. I happen to coach North Carolina. Well, Jordan obviously played there, so he would come over and officiate. He officiated some of my games. And I remember he would now I'd been out there 3 years. He didn't really know my name, but he knew my face because he took his camp serious. And he was there every day. And any issues in the dorms, he would run the kids the next morning and things like that. So he took it serious. But my last year being North Carolina, he came over, like I said, and officiated a couple of my games and was making. Well, I think he's probably making sure we won, right? Being North Carolina, but just an incredible experience. Built some lifelong relationships with a lot of people that I still stay in contact today. But just also a very humbling, experience. And then while I was out there one time, twice I got to meet with John Wooden as well.
Wow. Very cool story. You mentioned Wofford there in that answer. Here in ACC country, as some people call it, we got to see one of your mentors, Mike Young, lead Virginia Tech to that school's first and only ACC men's basketball championship. That was just 2 years ago. You've already done some almost unprecedented things at App State. How do you describe your most important takeaways from, 7 seasons with Mike Young at one of the better mid-major programs in all of America at the time, Wofford?
Yeah, so fortunate to have so many great mentors and guys that I work for. Mike Young spent 7 years, spent the longest time with him, and we had a lot of success. But one thing about Mike Young is he's the common denominator. He won championships with different rosters, different staffs. He's gone on to do it at Virginia Tech. I think he's 6-0 in championship games.
Wow.
But, I learned so much from him. I think that if I could probably summarize it in just a simple phrase, he is so good at keeping the main thing the main thing. Mm. And I think that sometimes as coaches, there's so many different ways you can kind of get your mind, just so many different ways. There's so many different. This is a job that's impossible to do at home. But when you're out recruiting, you got to go out recruiting. You got camps, you got donors, you got speaking, you got your own team, you got former players, you got alumni, all these things, right? Like, he's so good at just keeping the main thing, which is, what's important now. How do we help get this team better? He's not worried about what socks the guys are wearing. Not worried about what song the pep band's playing. He's not worried about any of that. He's worried about, how do we defend this action? How do we recruit this player? It's keeping the main thing, and that's one of my probably biggest takeaways from him.
Hey folks, David Glenn right here in Raleigh. One of my favorite restaurants for many years has been The Oak, Scratch Kitchen and Bourbon Bar. It's located on Lake Boone Trail, which happens to be a perfect location for a great meal and beverage if you're on your way to nearby Carter Finley Stadium or perhaps PNC Arena for a concert, Wolfpack or Hurricanes game, or other event. The menu is incredibly tasty and creative. The atmosphere is a lot of fun. The bourbon options are as high-end and varied as you'll find anywhere. The staff is super classy and first-rate, and I've just always loved the people, the food, and the overall vibe there. When I took Carolina Hurricanes owner Tom Dundon to lunch, yes, meaning the billionaire who owns the hockey team, I took him to The Oak. Seriously, it's that good. Learn more or make a reservation by visiting their website, theoakraleigh.com. That's theoakraleigh.com. Special thanks to Nick and Haley and their team for joining the family here at the David Glenn Show and the new North Carolina Sports Network. About 7 years ago, you come to another pretty big fork in your life and career. I think you were 36-ish years old at the time. And I've always heard, Coach, when you're considering a job, and maybe it's different when you've never been a head coach, guys will say, hey, I need to know who my athletic director is going to be. I need to know if my wife is willing to move to that part of the country. But one thing what am I going to get paid, is somewhere on the list, right? But I've always heard coaches say, can I win there, is one of the questions they ask themselves. You accepted the job at Presbyterian after they had won, I believe, 5 games the previous year and had never had even a winning season as a Division I program. What inspired you to say yes to that head coaching opportunity in your mid-30s?
Well, David, I think that as we talked about before, as a guy that I didn't play at North Carolina, I didn't play at Indiana, and so how many? I think we all want to be a head coach, and I didn't want to be a head coach just to be one. Obviously, you want to have an opportunity to win. I did believe we could win there, and Presbyterian had been a very successful Division II program, so the program had one there. It's a small liberal arts university or college in the upstate of South Carolina, which being at Wofford for 7 years, small liberal arts college in the upstate. I had a lot of contacts in the area, being in that area. And then my wife was pregnant with our son Riggs. And so it was just close enough where I didn't have to pack up and move. We had a place down in Clinton that we would spend the weekend, something like that. But like with her doctors and things like that, it was just close enough where, 30, 35-minute drive, that didn't have to, quote, uproot anything. But it was just, I think that I was just comfortable with the situation. The president there, Bob Staten, led the search, and so I felt really confident with his leadership. And I just think that I did believe we could win there. And like I said, I think there was an opportunity to really. I just thought the timing was right, and unfortunately, we were able to, to win 20 games and go to a postseason in year 2 and get an unbelievable call from App State.
With that in mind, and that season at Presbyterian is still the only winning record they've posted as a Division I program. So your 2-year turnaround there makes you a viable candidate. App State does come calling. Remind us what went into that decision. Familiar part of the country, I know. 80 or so miles from where you grew up. You're certainly comfortable geographically and recruiting-wise. But the Mountaineers have had struggles in men's basketball. So what went into your decision to take that job?
Yeah, I've always had just a great admiration for Boone and App State. Growing up in Kingsport, but obviously coaching at Wofford and coming up here a few times. And then it was a similar situation that I had just taken over at Presbyterian. You mentioned Presbyterian was on a kind of a losing season drought. Got here, App State was 8 straight years. And so I was comfortable with the situation. But most importantly, I had, just felt great leadership from our Director of Athletics, Doug Gillen, Chancellor Sherry Everts, our Board of Trustees. I just felt like there was really, really a strive for basketball to be good up here. And so I thought that once again, the timing was good. We had just kind of went through that. And so I really felt like this is a place we can win. And then most importantly, I want to live there. It's a great place. It's a great community, great place to raise a family. And, those are the things for me. Can you live, you want to live there, and can you win? And, certainly check those 2 boxes here. And I just felt like this was an awesome opportunity, and love it here.
Dustin Kerns is with us. He's just the 3rd coach in the history of App State basketball to take the Mountaineers to the Division I men's basketball tournament. Bobby Cremens was actually the first, Buzz Peterson the next, and Coach Kerns just a few years ago. Maybe he'll do so again this year. Part of what makes you a great coach, I imagine, is your ability to turn the page and convince your players to turn the page. But if I have to beg you, Coach, I ask you for purposes of our viewers and listeners to just revisit the Auburn win one more time, even if it's against your nature to do so. I'm just a big believer that such rare things should be documented and celebrated, man. Like, that's rarefied air, right? I mean, it was 23 years just to host one of those power conference teams, much less beat them, much less in front of a sellout crowd. So what can you tell us either about the in-arena aftermath, the on-campus aftermath, the faces of your players, your phone texts going crazy, meaningful conversations or texts or calls, anything that you'd like to share, man, because not only are you in first place in the Sun Belt, and, an incredible record. That is one of the best wins in college basketball this year. And I hope you share as much as you're willing to share.
Well, I don't mind revisiting because it's a great memory, right? And it's a great moment. And I think that we need to continue to cherish that moment. And because I think that moment can keep perspective and a reminder that we've got a really good team, and because especially what Auburn's done since then. Going back, I give Coach Pearl the credit, right? Like,
yeah.
When I got here 5 years ago, I did get that a lot. Like, hey, when are you going to get a big school to come up here? I'm like, man, we just got here. Like, give me a couple of years. Because it had been 23 years, like you said. Bruce Pearl, one of the few guys that will do it. And so we engaged with them right after they went to the Final Four. So now it wasn't like this was some struggling Auburn program. This was at the top of their going to the Final Four and what they've done there, and Coach Pearl's wherever he's been. And so here we are. We get Auburn to come. I thought it was just perfect timing. Sunday, December the 3rd, football's done. ESPN national television picks up the game. First ever national televised game here at the Home Center. And their only loss at the time was Baylor on a neutral court. And I just thought, like, the environment, I thought that our students, our community, the sellout, it did two things. It elevated our play, and it bothered Auburn.
Yeah.
But that's what Coach Pearl wanted. He wanted to take his team on a tough, true road environment. A lot of programs, they don't play a true road game until conference.
Right.
And his philosophy is different. Give him credit for that. And so there was actually an article I saw the other day that said, at Auburn's win at Arkansas, ? That's why they went to App State. And so we're still getting some, but our guys met the moment. At the end of the day, it was about our players having this opportunity. And that was the thing for this is make this day live forever. And I thought our players did. Like, we led for 28 minutes. Like, we didn't hit some half-court shot or some crazy call. Like, no, like we earned the win over obviously an elite team, elite program who have not had a single-digit game sets, let alone a loss. They haven't had a single-digit game. They have not had a close game at all. They're crushing teams. And so, I think that it's a great, great win. Like you said, I agree. But also, it's a moment that's going to just keep living here and for App State basketball. I think that every program kind of has that moment. Our football team beating Michigan, that was the big moment that just elevated the program. App State basketball over the years, our program has had some great moments, but that could have been the moment that kind of elevates our crowds and fan base even more, our student activity even more. Now we've got another national televised game this weekend. Now it's 2 in the same year. So, I thought that we met the moment. And then the first court storming in 23 years of the Home Center. And so I was just really happy for our players. They got to experience that.
How many texts did you have on your phone in the next 24 hours?
Probably 250, And I get back to everybody, because I don't like to sit there and see those unread texts. It might be 2 o'clock in the morning, but I get back to everybody and really try to do it in a personal way. And but it was a great day, and I think the best part the game was at 1 o'clock, and so at 3 o'clock you still got the rest of the day to just kind of. I remember we went home, and this was a good story. So this is very humbling, right? Like, after the game, my wife's like, "Hey, we need milk. We need something for dinner." So I'll never forget. I'm going into Publix around like 3:15 on my way home, and I see some fans, some of our biggest donors, coming out of Publix, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What am I doing? I'm going in here to get dinner. I got to get some milk. We need some milk." And it was hilarious, but it wasn't a big deal to me. But like, my point is, got home 3:45. You got the rest of the day to enjoy it, got on the grill and watched the game, and what's turned out to be an incredible win, and I think that'll keep going. I think they've got an incredible team, but for that particular day, we were really good. We met the moment.
I feel like I know you well enough from afar and asking others about you to know that you're a smart guy, you're a poised guy, you can be fiery at moments on the sidelines. I don't know you well enough to know if you often get emotional, but in the post-game press conference after the amazing win against Auburn, somebody asked you, and I give credit as a longtime journalist myself, somebody asked you a question about changing the perception of the program. And you actually got a little choked up answering that question. What went into the emotion of that moment?
Yeah, it's a lot of work by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And this is a job, this is a profession that is impossible to do at home. You just can't do it at home. You got to go out, recruit. You got to go out and play road games. And so, there's an investment by our wives, our kids, our coaches, staffs, kids, our trainers. People don't, maybe some people see the games, they don't see the moments of being in the living rooms with the players, driving 6 hours back from our assistant coaches, leaving here at midnight because of a game, or just all the work by a lot of people and our families, to have a moment like that. And I think we changed the perception in year one.
Yeah.
Once again, 8 straight losing seasons. We won 18 in year one. Year two, we go to the NCAA tournament. Year three, we finished second in the Sun Belt regular season, which is the highest finish ever. Year four, first Power 5 win in 8 years. And now year 5, we're picked preseason second, which has never happened. And then we have another Power 5 win on national TV at home. So I'm like, the perception has changed, but it's officially changed. I think we're swimming in a new pool, and I think that just that question kind of hit me with thinking about that scene on the court.
Yeah.
And thinking about all the hours and our players, all the weight sessions that our players put in the summer, and the summer workouts in July, and our players out doing the conditioning, and our players out being in the gym on their own. So much work by so many people, our administrators, people on campus, our donors, playing in a golf tournament to help us raise money, to help us. It's just, that moment kind of just hit me there's a lot of people, a lot of players, a lot of coaches, a lot of families put a lot of work in for a moment like this. And it just, that seeing our players experience our Cornerstone was really rewarding.
The original Saltworks has been serving the Wilmington area for over 50 years. Owner Bob Hubbard and his staff create a welcome atmosphere to go along with their home-cooked breakfast and lunch that simply cannot be rivaled anywhere in North Carolina. Eggs, waffles, hot dogs, crab cakes, and the best grits in the state. The original Saltworks, a proud partner of the North Carolina Sports Network.
Coach, because I've had you for a while, I want you to know that in video land, if you have another appointment, give me a sign and I'll cut short my questions, okay? But I have more stuff to get to because I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I celebrate the story that you're in the midst of, and I just love your career to this point. But next on my checklist is, and you can remind me if I'm forgetting somebody, but of the 9 guys that you leaned on hardest a season ago, of course, some exhausted their eligibility, but those who had the option of returning to the Mountaineers from your regular rotation all stayed. And I've been around long enough to know that even in the portal era, even if a guy didn't put his name in, doesn't mean that nobody inquired or talked to his mom, his dad, his high school coach, or something else. I've never seen so many transfers, and I don't think every transfer is a bad thing or a red flag for a program. I'm not saying that, but it is unusual. We're at the point where it's unusual that every guy in your rotation eligible to return did return. That just seems like a cool story. What went into that?
Yeah, I think it's and I agree with you. Sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
on both ends, and sometimes a fresh start is needed for players and coaches, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think for the guys that returned, I think that their fibers are about the right stuff, and I think their families. I just think they're great kids from great parents that have perspective. I think they love the university. I think they love their community. I think the App State University is a big part of that. I think they like how they're developed. I think our coaching staff, our support staff, they like how they're, developed and treated and coached. And I think there's a lot of factors in that. But I also think that just most importantly, like they have a desire to be different. And I think sometimes now the normal thing is to enter the portal. The normal thing is to, move on and chase something. And there's nothing. A lot of times there's nothing wrong with that, and I really don't have a problem with that. But this particular group decided to be different. They didn't want to be normal, and we're not having a normal season right now.
Yeah,
which is a credit to our players and things like that. But I just think that they're great kids from great families, and we've added some guys that have been great fits for us.
The 15-4 record jumps off the page. The top first place status in the Sun Belt jumps off the page. When you peel the onion a little bit on this team, 36% defensive field goal percentage is an insane number. I mean, the Houston Cougars, famously well-coached team, I believe are last I looked, the only team above the App State Mountaineers in field goal percentage defense. And for folks who don't know, that's out of 360-something teams in Division I men's basketball. You guys are second. You could probably write a book on the most important principles of defense. I won't ask you to do that. But what's the starting point for not just good defense? That's just elite, crazy good defense.
Yeah, I just think we just emphasize it. And I think that one of the ways we've been able to get our guys to buy into it, right? Because is I think in the last 6-7 years, there has not been a team at a league like ours who, is quote a one bid league. There has not been a program play in the NCAA tournament that has not been in the top 3 in their league in defense.
Wow.
And so sharing that with our guys, they automatically then buy in, like, all right, like really good defensive teams win. And we've made some tweaks to fit our personnel that have really been helpful. You mentioned Houston. I'd rather play the Houston Rockets than the Houston Cougars. I can promise you like that. Holy cow. Watching them play on TV at home and smoke.
Intense.
But, I just think that we've got great length. We've got great athleticism, but I think most importantly, our guys are bought into like defending people and getting stops and then get out and transition that way. But our guys take a lot of pride in having the reputation that you're talking about.
Tell me if this is a trivial observation or if it's a meaningful observation. Nobody on your roster plays more than 28 minutes per game, and 9 different guys have started games. Is that just how it happened to unfold this year, or is that reflecting somehow the way you like to coach basketball?
I think a little bit of both. I think that our depth is part of our strength, and being able to wear teams down and keep fresh bodies on the court. I also think we've got really unselfish players that understand they're part of a team. And, this summer, and I'll probably keep this private, but this summer, every week we had a person in basketball Zoom with our team. And we had some great speakers, and it was really a Q&A with our players to have an opportunity to have someone Zoom with our guys. And whether it was from a great team or just somebody in basketball. And I think that there were common themes from all of them. And our guys really, some of the things that those people shared really resonated with them. And so I think we've got a great I think it's hard to be selfish and play great defense because you're one of 5 people out there. So if you're not doing your part, you're not playing as hard as you can be, and you got to let those other 4 people down because we really pride ourselves on team defense. We got scored on. We didn't get a stop, and instead of, well, I guarded my guy. No, we don't think that way. We don't talk that way. And so I think that our guys, really have an unselfish nature to them, and their fibers are about the right things. That has really helped us, but also playing wise. We do an exercise every year, and we have our guys write down on a note card. Don't put your name on it. How many minutes do you think you're going to average this year? How many points do you think you're going to average this year? And it always, never fails, right? But like once you add it up, you put it on the board. Once again, I don't really know what people write, and I don't really want to, but I always say, hey, congratulations, guys. We're going to lead the country in score. We're going to average 129 points. Now, also the problem is there's 368 minutes up here. Does everybody understand there's only 200 minutes in a college basketball game? And that kind of exercise really gives them perspectives like, hey, listen, I get it, all right? But these are not realistic numbers. One of them is not even close. We're all going to have to give up something. We're all going to have to sacrifice if we really want to do something great as a team. And then we'll always show them examples of like, hey, this guy was the number 2 pick in the NBA draft. How many points did he average? I don't know, Coach. Exactly. And it's not about that. What you do know is he played in his team won, and giving them examples like that. But I think we do a good job of kind of helping them understand, like, at the end of the day, it's about efficiency. It doesn't matter if you average 28 points. Are you efficient? That's what's going to help you progress in basketball as a player, efficiency and in winning. Are you part of winning? Can you impact winning? And are you efficient? And I think that we really, talk about those things a lot. But it's a combination things of speakers and all the exercises that have helped.
The ACC gets a lot of attention, TV and otherwise, media and otherwise in this part of the country. But and you may have a much longer list, but I just Trayvon Spillers jumps off the screen when I watch him play. What can you share about him? Because it feels like there's a half a dozen players in our state of North Carolina that when I watch them as a non-coach, non-expert, they look like they could play anywhere to me. You played against a kid named Trezarian White down at UNC Wilmington. He fits that to me. He fits that description. What can you tell us about Trayvon, how you got him to App State, and what he brings to the table?
Yeah, Trayvon's a guy we identified over a year ago, early January. We were on the road one game, and we were in the hotel, and from time to time, my staff will bring me some guys that have gotten their attention. We watched some film with Trayvon and immediately FaceTimed and offered him a scholarship. And just felt like he was a fit for us. And then our staff did a really good job recruiting him. And we were the only school to go down to Charleston and meet with his mother when he was at junior college out in Missouri. Myself, my staff, we went out to Missouri several times. So he was a guy we really prioritized from a fit, standpoint. And he just fits, right? Like, I think that you've got to find guys that fit you, and the players got to find stuff that fits them. Well, he's a fit for us. We're a fit for him. And I do think he just plays hard. I just think, like, at the end of the day, like, what does he do well? He just plays hard. He plays. He's when you play at the level that he's playing, it just covers up mistakes. You don't notice as much, and he just makes things happen. He's super efficient, as we talked about. But also our other teammates he's a fit with them too. Their strengths allow him to do what he does well, and vice versa. His strengths allow our other players to flourish, and so it's just a great mix. And certainly we he's playing to his strengths. But like I said, part of that is his teammates and what they do well have allowed him to do that.
So I have two more questions, and then we have this lightning round. We'll get you out of here with that. As the parent of an App State student, my daughter Avery is a senior with the Mountaineers. I talked with her about the cold in Boone and the snow in Boone. She doesn't mind it. She actually is a snowboarder. We as a family have gone skiing at one of your nearby resorts there. I grew up in Philadelphia, so I'm not intimidated by snow or cold or any of that. But I will say Boone's a different kind of cold than I grew up with, even in Philly. I shoveled a lot of snowy driveways, Coach, but there's something about the breeze that gets to your bones. Is it something that you have to talk about in recruiting? Because when we sent Avery to App State, I'm not exaggerating, the only negative that other families said about their children's experience, it was 95% positive feedback. The 5% was some people got a little dreary during the colder, darker months, emotionally dreary, and some just did not like the cold. If that's the worst thing you can say about a university, that's a pretty good thing, right? But is that a thing with basketball players or even your fans who sometimes you're asking to go see a game in, 15-degree weather?
Yeah, I think I agree with you about the wind, right? It'll rip through your soul, right?
It does, man. Woo.
Fortunately, we're an indoor sport.
Yes.
Right? But if it has came up in recruiting, okay, this has always been my response. If Mark Few calls you at Gonzaga, you going to go there? Yeah, probably. Well, it's going to be colder there, all right? If Wisconsin calls you, going to go there? Yeah, probably. Well, it's going to be way colder. How about Tom Izzo? If he calls you at Michigan State, you want to go play for Juwan Howard at Michigan? Great coach, great program. Yeah, it's going to be way colder there. How about the defending champions UConn Huskies? You want to go play there? Yeah. It's way colder there. You're going to show. So always kind of there's a lot of other colder, windier places out there that are great in basketball, and so that's kind of always my response, and it kind of keeps them. Hey, we're an indoor sport, and we're traveling some then during that point anyway. But also there's some good in it. I think that some kids have never seen snow, and so they think it's cool. And we took our guys snow tubing about 2 weeks ago. They loved it. They loved it. Oh yeah, Hawks Nest snow tubing. We took them out. Some guys had never done it, and they loved it. It was a great experience. We did that a couple of weeks ago. I think our guys got to love where they live. And in the preseason, when they arrive in the summer, every week we do something in the community. We took them tubing down the river. I don't know if Avery's ever done that with you, David, but you got to do tubing down the river as well. And then we took them up to Grandfather Mountain. We did the Alpine roller coaster. But I think that part of that is getting our guys out and experiencing there might be some snow out, but well, you enjoyed snow tubing, didn't you? That was fun. And so, like I said, fortunately, we're an indoor sport. I think that sometimes with the weather, that's an easy excuse to not come to a game. You mentioned the fans and stuff, but our fan support has been really good. Our student support has been really good. We're going to keep getting better and better. There's a new parking garage going up right outside here.
Yeah,
650 spaces, and so I think we just keep going, keep building the momentum for the future.
Hey folks, David Glenn here. I cannot offer a greater endorsement or a bigger compliment than telling you about the folks that I use for important matters in my own life. That's the case with the Lawson Insurance Group, led by three actual brothers, Ken Lawson, Miller Lawson, and Michael Lawson. These guys operate a very successful family-oriented business right here in Raleigh, and that office happens to be one of those beautiful blends of NC State grads and UNC grads and graduates, fans and supporters of other colleges and universities all over North Carolina. I know these guys, I trust these guys, and I send these guys my own insurance business and that of my family. The next time you have insurance needs, I hope you'll do the same. The Lawson Insurance Group is known for its commitment to community and its dedication to ensuring that North Carolinians and their businesses are prepared for life's inevitable challenges, with the reminder that as a High Street insurance partner, Lawson Insurance Group offers local expertise and support that, combined with High Street's extensive national resources, means more choice and support for you as their client. As we speak, Miller Lawson's helping the Glenn family with our auto insurance needs, and Ken Lawson is the guy to call for your commercial insurance needs. If you Google High Street Lawson Insurance, their website will be the first to pop up. So my last longer form question is a response to a quote I read from you recently, which I thought really reflected well on you just as a person, as a human being, where you said, I couldn't tell if you were smiling or when you said it or joking or whatever, but you basically said, I want to end up in the Dad Hall of Fame. I want to end up in the Husband Hall of Fame. Now, basketball success is important to me, but clearly you're about things even beyond basketball. Now, I'll tell you, Coach, as I ask you to answer how you're doing on those. If your wife and children had ballots, I wonder how you're doing on those Hall of Fame candidacies. Because in my world, I think I'd score well with my son and daughter. I'm day to day, as the saying goes, as a husband. I'm not sure which way that vote would go. I definitely think it would matter which day they ask for the ballot. So how are you doing with the Dad Hall of Fame and the Husband Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I just think that that was a question, and I answered it that way because basketball is what I do, but it's not what I'm all about, right?
Yeah.
I love the game of basketball. This is a labor of love. But like yesterday, my daughter plays club volleyball, and so we left the house at 6:30 as a family. We didn't. She played, I think, 6 games. We were down there. We left at 6:30 to come home, right? And so it was awesome to spend the day watching her play volleyball. My son is 6 and loves being around our players. Feels like he's on the team, and try to have those. We did a family trip here with our staff, so any of our wives and families got to ride the bus and things like that, and our kids really enjoy that. But I think it's also good for our players to see that too. I want our players to understand that I'm a dad and husband first, and that having them around our program a lot. Like there was one day, I think maybe this summer, where my wife, my daughter had an orthodontist appointment. My wife, we'd exhausted all options, and so I had to leave practice to go pick up my son from school. I don't remember the exact details of it, but I told our team, guys, at the end of the day, man, I'm a dad. All right, I'm a husband. I gotta do this. Our coaches will finish up practice, but I do think that perspective sometimes for them is really good too. And but you know what? It's we all work hard. Everybody works hard. All right, but I try to be at everything that I can with my kids. There are unfortunate times I have to miss some things, but if I'm in town, I got an opportunity to go, I'm gonna go. But like flip side is we do our Mountaineer talk tonight. My family, my wife and kids will be there. Well, my daughter's got volleyball practice. She'll probably like they love being a part of it too, and certainly I love that too. Just hanging out with our players and it's a family.
With that, it is time for our lightning round with Coach Dustin Kerns, brought to you by our friends at XL Moving and Storage. Whether you are moving locally, nationally, or even internationally, and whether you're a residential or commercial customer, please consider our friends at XL Moving and Storage, an award-winning Allied Van Lines agent with 25 years of experience helping North Carolinians with their moving and storage needs. You can find them online at xlms.com. That's EXCELMS.com. Okay, Coach, these are questions we actually ask all of our guests. It just so happens the first one is kind of funny in your case, but we would ask you to put in order a beach house, a lake house, and a mountain house. Your order of preference.
I'm going to go mountain house.
I thought so.
Yeah.
All right. Let's. And what would be second there for the Kerns family?
Beach. Yeah, beach.
All-time favorite family trip outside the USA?
We've been to the Bahamas with Presbyterian and App State, and both times, and got to stay at the Atlantis, and our kids love that place, and that was a great family trip outside the U.S. That's the only time I think we've been out of the country together as a family in the U.S.
A few favorite bands or musicians?
Yeah, I like Dave Matthews Band. I like Moon Taxi. I like Camp. I like there's enough. I've got a pretty good little playlist here, right? Like,
go ahead and give us a couple examples from that.
Yeah, I can go.
I sometimes get these sorts of questions while I'm being interviewed, Coach, and then I give an answer in the moment, and then on the drive home, I'm like, oh, I forgot to mention this and this and this. So what you got?
Yeah, I got Mountain Joy on here.
Okay.
I got the Lumineers on here.
Yeah. I
got American Authors. I got Darius Rucker on here.
Yeah.
I got Jameson Rogers. I got George Ezra. I got Chris Stapleton. I got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it sounds like
my daughter's a Swiftie, so I got a couple Taylor Swifts on there. So
very cool. How about, you don't have to hit all these, but do you have a favorite actor or actress or author or artist? Any of those?
I love Denzel Washington. Anything Denzel Washington's in, I'm all in on. Like, to me, he can be a good guy, a villain, but whatever he is, like, I find myself cheering for him because he's such an awesome actor. But anything Denzel, I'm in.
And then our last question, our title sponsor here is the North Carolina Pork Council. So we ask whether it's bacon or Eastern-style barbecue, Western-style barbecue, pork shoulders, anything else. What is your favorite pork product?
Well, all the above. But I love like a jalapeno cheddar sausage type thing, like anything like that. Yeah, I'm all in on. I do probably like an Eastern barbecue, but I'm open to all of it. But if I had probably a choice, some sort of jalapeno cheddar sausage, I'm all in on.
It's interesting, given your background. People talk about the Eastern style, the Western style, but also there's that South Carolina style. Have you had the mustard-based, the tomato-based, and the vinegar-based?
Yeah. I've had it all. All right, I'm not missing any meals. I've had it all. And even back in Tennessee, there's always some good barbecue spots wherever you go. But North Carolina barbecue, I think, is the best.
I want to remind everybody the Mountaineers still have, I believe it's 7 home games, including 2 this week, as we're speaking with Coach Kerns. Kind of a rematch with James Madison, I know, this Saturday, which was a great ball game when they played up in Harrisonburg. So, Coach, just congratulations on this amazing story. We really do appreciate you carving out some time for a visit here on the David Glenn Show in the North Carolina Sports Network.
Hey, it is awesome to be on the David Glenn Show. And like I said at the beginning, I'm truly humbled to be on here. And thank you so much. It's a pleasure. And we've got, like you said, game versus Georgia Southern on Thursday. Another opportunity to pack the home center and just taking one day at a time.
Undefeated at home so far, these Mountaineers, and 15-4 atop the Sun Belt standings. Coach, thanks again for your kind words, your time. We'll be rooting for you the rest of the way, officially, actually. I don't know if you can see that, but in your honor, I wore my gift from my daughter, my App State T-shirt today, so it's been fun to get to know you a little bit better. We appreciate you.
I look forward to high-fiving her after a game soon.
That's a deal, my friend. I'll pass that along. Appreciate you, Coach Kerns. Take care.
Thanks so much. Go Mountaineers, take the stage.
And thanks to you for joining us today on the North Carolina Sports Network.